Hello, and welcome to the People Chronicles Storied Women. My name is Anna Rose Ingarra-Milch, and I am your host. I am also the author of Lunch with Lucille. Lunch with Lucille is a story of how one woman's life impacted another woman. And here on the People Chronicles Storied Women, we bring people, and especially women, obviously, from our community to share their stories so that we can understand and we can learn from them. Today, my guest is a very special guest, a very important person in our city who impacts many people. And her name is Johanny Cepeda-Freytiz. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I was going to call you Lucille. Anna Rose.
It's, just so that you know, we are taping this on a very early Monday morning.
Yes.
So this is the question, Johanny, is what is it that you would want everyone who's watching this and listening to it, what is it that you want us to remember, the takeaway?
That anything that you do in life, you always want to do it with love, right? Because if you don't, then when you want to impact, whether you're cooking, whether you're sewing, whatever it is that you're doing, always do it with love. It's something that I learned as a young child from my dad. He'll say, if you can't do it with love, then don't do it at all.
Very good. So what is it that you do?
So I am the proud owner of Mi Casa Su Casa Cafe and restaurant located in our beautiful downtown Reading at 320 Penn Street. And we've been there now 10 years. So I'm excited to have reached this important milestone in our business life. And, I treat my restaurant as, it's my youngest child. So, we gave birth to it 10 years ago and, we're about to celebrate a birthday, right? And what do I do? Wow, anything that has to do from whether if I'm taking care of customers, if I'm doing bookkeeping, if I'm doing inventory. Sometimes I even have to cook. And lately I've become a painter because we've been sprucing up the place. So yeah, you kind of wear different hats when you're an entrepreneur.
Yeah. So have you always, like you say, your dad taught you this, to always do something with love. Have you always done that, or is that something that you have come to learn as you have aged?
Well, it's been instilled in me. So, but obviously, as I've aged, right, I understand what that means.
So we understand what it means.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's a big thing that we have to remember is that even though we are taught certain things as we grow up, it's the understanding part of it.
And also and how I was raised, love my parents. My parents love me dearly. But my dad would be the one that, if my mom cooked something and I didn't really like it, he would go ahead and kind of cater it to me and be like, so it was like he always went above and beyond. Always showed his love no matter what, if that makes sense. He always so he didn't just say it, he does it. And even with his, he's the one that cooks. And even the way he cooks, and he's very meticulous, and, he cooks like he cooks at home. So he's very specific about his meats, making sure he eliminates the grease and the oil and that he's using fresh ingredients. So it's his way of life. So it's, it's just that now I understand what it means more so than when I was growing up.
Yeah.
But, it's action. Love is an action word.
Exactly. Love is an action word.
You just have to do. You have to show it.
You show it. Exactly.
And even when you taste my dad's food, it's like, it's. I mean, some people be like, oh my gosh, this bagel is so. I'm like, well, we didn't really cook the bagel. We just put it in the toast and kind of put the spread. Do you understand? But it's just how you prepare. You're touching it. It's like you're putting a part of you in what you're doing.
Yeah, you make it with
love.
Yes,
it has to be.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. So your dad cooks for you, and so who is in the business? You and Dad, and
so my husband.
Your husband
is now. My backbone, great support system. I have some part-time staff, and then mom, she doesn't work with me, but she's like the boss. Where she goes to the house, she's like the supervisor.
Of course, they're always the supervisor.
Right, of course. So and then sometimes even the children will come in and help out. They're not,
How old are your children?
They are now 13 and 12.
Oh, okay.
So my son, he loves to kind of earn money. So he'll say, hey, Mom, what can I do to earn some money? And, we put him to work, whether it's cleaning tables, stocking the fridge.
Sure. It's very important.
So everyone plays a part. It's a family business. So it's very important for me. And in fact, this is why I pursued that business, because I wanted to dedicate time to my family, especially my children. I mean, you can imagine now, 10 years in business. So my little one turned 2.
Oh my gosh!
My youngest,
they were babies.
Right, they were babies, right?
Wow.
So I kind of wanted to have them be able to run around or just be there in the same space as I.
Yeah. Right? So that also goes back to what Dad is teaching you and the children, and so passing that legacy down about that love is an action. It's just not something that we talk about. You have to see it and feel it, and to really understand it. Right. And then you get it. Do you know what I mean? So it's almost as if it's like pouring out of your dad to you, and now to your children, which is a great legacy.
Thank you. And even my mom has played a major role. She's independent, strong, fiery type of woman. You know what I mean? So it's like, wow. But but she's very hardcore. Whereas my dad was the one that was more of a nurturer. It's interesting the roles that they
dynamic,
play.
yeah.
But right, but I thank my mom, because that's why I'm like really strong and independent, and kind of like, and if I can't find a way, I make a way, and I get that a lot from my mom.
That's great, yeah.
But one of the things that I remember also with my dad is like, I went away to college. So my commute from New York City was about an hour and a half, almost 2 hours. And my dad was sometimes like, if he called me and he didn't hear me, or would hear my voicemail, which was the same, he would be like, oh, something's wrong. Or he would just drive up, leave me like groceries, or leave me money under my suite. Not tell me he's coming, just leave me stuff. So, that's what I'm saying. It's an action. It's like, oh man, it's something, if he'd be concerned, whatever, he just moves. And he's going to show, and he's going to go out of his way. And he's very generous. So not only with me as his daughter, but, with others. Like when he travels to the Dominican Republic, he's always like filling up containers and taking containers, because he's conscious that there's so many people that are poor and needy. So he's always
acting. He's always acting out his love.
Always.
Wonderful.
Always, right.
Wonderful. So now, you said, so you grew up in New York City?
Yes. Part of my life in New York City, part of my life in the Dominican Republic, because I did attend school there. I did about, 5th grade all the way to 9th grade in the Dominican Republic.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
And it's funny because that's where I learned how to cook, because in the Dominican Republic, you're taught at a young age how to kind of like take care of the household.
Okay.
So at 10 years old, it's like, I remember my cousins and that's who I lived with. I lived with my aunt. Learning, you learn how to make coffee, like with, the filter, like the old school
like the Melita.
Yeah. And just the seasoning, we were taught we would wash hands by clothes, like those were our chores. I mean, yeah. So my experience with food came at a very young age. We were in the kitchen, prepping.
I would imagine too, that sometimes people, a child can then reject that, and what you did is you really bought into that love.
I did. I embraced it, I think food is such a part of our culture, right? Yeah. I mean, even when you're cooking, you're eating, like that's when you're kind of engaging the most with your family and loved ones.
That's right.
So, so it's a, because even when I think back of my early childhood years, when I think about like my grandparents, being in the kitchen all the time, it was like they were cooking like all day, like you're all day in the kitchen. That's how I felt like.
Yes, I agree. I mean, I come from an Italian background, so I have the same thing. They cooked all day, and then my grandmother would meet me at the door with a meatball on a fork.
Try this, taste it. Right.
And I remember one time I wouldn't get out of the car, and my grandmother, who was, she was probably only in her 60s, my age, but I thought she was 150, and but she would be climbing over, because there was only 2 doors in the car, and she was climbing over the front seat trying to shove a meatball in my, entice me with a meatball, and sure enough, she got me out, My mother's like, she's not coming out of the car, I'll get her out, and in her broken English, she said, I'll get her out, She's like, come on, we have meatballs.
It's true. It plays an integral part in our family.
It does, it does. Food is very, very important, and very, it's, because it nourishes us, as does, all those other good feelings of love and respect, I think it's really very important for us to feel that. When somebody gives you food, they are really giving you the very basic need of life. We have to have food to survive. So when someone says, come into my home, here, have a piece of cake, have a cup of coffee, what they're saying, I love you, and this is sustenance, and it's just, it's a glorious, personally, I think it's just a glorious experience,
Yes,
and it's funny, because I've gone into people's houses who haven't offered you anything.
And don't you find that so rude?
I find it rude.
Because it's not what we're experiencing.
I'm saying to myself in my head, it's like, really, you can't even give me a glass of water or something,
Yes.
But it's true.
I thought I was the only one. I wouldn't say it. I used to be like, I'm not used to this, right? Because that's not our upbringing.
Exactly. I'm not used to it either, and there's a comedian who does, it's a comedian talks about, She says something like, you know, my mother would have this cake, but you couldn't touch the cake because it was for company.
Oh my goodness.
So when the company would ring the doorbell and come in, they say, get the cake out, it's for company. Company is here, you know. And, you know, so everybody was company who came through the front door. Yeah, it's funny. But anyway, I really appreciate you coming in today to speak with us and reminding us that we all should do, not just Johanny, but all of us should do everything that we do with love, you know, and take that lesson from her dad and spread it. Just think if we spread that. Oh my gosh, if we could multiply that. Now, Johanny gets the opportunity to spread it because she owns a restaurant right on Penn Street. Yes. So if you come in there, you get a dose. You get a dose of Johanny. You get a dose of Johanny, you get a dose of love, and then you can go out and you can spread that. You can pay it forward.
Right, and that's the experience that I like to kind of offer people. It's like, you know, Mi Casa Su Casa is a family business, a family environment.
It's a great name.
Anyone that comes in gets treated like relative. I mean, and depending on how regular you are, sometimes I'll be like, you know what, you need to go get that yourself. No, I'm just kidding, I'm kidding. No, but I like people to feel comfortable, leave their stress at the door, come in, relax, eat, talk, just a safe space, a happy place.
Right. In fact, you by the mere name, translate the name for us.
Mi Casa Su Casa means your home away from home, right? So my home is your home.
That's it. That's beautiful. And thank you so much for coming in and speaking to us.
Thank you for having me, Anna Rose. I appreciate it.
And thank you very much. Thank you for following Storied Women on the People Chronicles. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel, The People Chronicles, and you won't miss any stories.
These stories are made possible in part by Queen City Restaurant, Greth Homes, Heidelberg Family Restaurant, and Spring Ridge Financial.